everyone. I'm Sarah Graham, the COO of Zebra MD, and today I'm here to introduce you to your new clinical AI assistant specializing in rare and genetic disease. So let's introduce this global health issue. You think rare and genetic disease, and you think that's something that will never affect me, or it's not a prominent issue. Well, really, it is not that rare. There's a 1 in 10 risk, which is about the same as diabetes, and there's over 10,000 rare and genetic diseases, with more being discovered every single day. The diagnostic delay is often 10 to 15 years and even longer in rural and underserved areas, and even in Europe. There's over 500 million people affected worldwide, half of them being children, and a third of them die before the age of 5 from their condition. Not only is this a huge issue for patients, but it's a real economic burden. There's over 500 billion in yearly excess direct medical cost associated with rare and genetic disease patients. On average, these patients cost about 30,000 more per year than a chronic disease patient like somebody with heart disease. Less than a quarter of these patients are treated adequately, and there's about a 20% higher cost to treat these inadequately managed patients. So what does this look like in real life? First, we have an undiagnosed patient. This is somebody who's had decades of symptoms. They've been in and out of the doctor. They bounce around the health system. They're often on chronic pain medications, and most of them have even lost their jobs. They've had all standard workups come back as negative, and so they're really at a loss of what to do. Finally, decades later, they might be referred to a specialist, but the specialist might be at a large hospital or institution on the other side of the country, something with their health insurance does not cover. And so this patient will remain undiagnosed or in their current situation. When we look at a diagnosed patient, this is an example that actually occurred in a New York City ER room during the pandemic. So a patient has COVID-19, they come into the ER in the middle of the night, it's swamped, there's tons of patients, but this patient also has fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, which means that their skin will calcify upon trauma. So the ER doctor is thinking, can I put an IV into this patient? How do I treat them adequately at the point of care? There's no time to research extensively. They don't have a lot of time per patient. And so again, the patient is not treated properly. So our solution is Zebra MD, a point-of-care EHR integrated AI clinical decision support tool. So we alert the possibility of undiagnosed rare disease right at the point of care with information on how to test and treat the patient. We also give clinical management recommendations for those patients who are already diagnosed, like the situation that I mentioned in the ER. We use a proprietary technology called virtual pooling, which means that no EHR data sharing is needed, and we don't need FDA approval. This works for any rare disease globally, and ideally, we'd like to expand to any disease globally. Importantly, we always stay up to date, and we include a post-visit notification feature to update doctors on new tests or clinical trials that might be available. And we use self-learning local and global algorithms to do this. This all began through a research collaboration between UCSF and UCLA, where we were able to reduce diagnostic delays using commonly available EMR data. We have 3 patents and more on the way for our virtual pooling technology, and we achieved over 87% specificity. Now, when you look at a regular patient coming in, a doctor treating someone with rare and genetic disease will only have about 50% specificity. So this was really a great breakthrough, and we think that we can get this number a lot higher, above 90%. Our customer base, we propose a $9.99 per user per year subscription for health systems so that this can be integrated right at the point of care. We propose 15% being pharma contracts. We already have a contract with Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, and we can provide them with a lot of back-end data and metrics and analytics, like which patients are eligible for their clinical trials. 10% we propose being EHR, and another 10% on consumer health companies, though this will all be validated once we finish our MVP testing. So what would the subscription model look like? We're thinking something similar to currently what UpToDate uses. And again, we'll validate this $9.99 number once we actually have metrics on how much we can improve the patient care. Our primary customer is value-based health systems like CMS, who have a certain amount to spend per patient. And we propose a value proposition of 7.5 million per year per user. So when you think about a typical patient panel, that's about 2,500 patients per physician per year, and statistically 10% will have rare and genetic disease. When you multiply that by the 30,000 excess cost per patient, that's the 7.5 million number. And we want to bring that 30,000 down to be aligned with what you spend on a chronic disease patient. We hope to decrease readmissions, improve patient outcomes, decrease time spent on those lower revenue generating visits when patients are not being diagnosed, and decrease the overall cost spent per patient with rare and genetic disease. So our market, our total addressable market is about 5 trillion, taking into account all worldwide providers, EHR systems, pharma companies, genetic testing companies, and consumer health companies. Our SAM is about 50 billion, and that's just focused on the US providers and health systems and the 3 major EHR systems that we could target. And then our SOM is about 1 billion, focused just on US academically affiliated health systems and orphan pharma. Our beachhead market right now is really through connections that we have. So, for example, the Mayo Clinic, UCSF, UCLA, Dartmouth, who we're all working with. So our competition and moat, I'm going to talk through this briefly, but I put here UpToDate, IBM Watson Health, and Decisio Health. When you're looking at something like UpToDate, you might think we're similar. They don't use predictive algorithms at all to help diagnose patients. And while they offer some rare and genetic diseases on their platform, it's only the most common. They're not focused on all rare and genetic diseases. We're the only ones using virtual pooling technology, and we have access to identifiable patient data directly from EHRs. So even though IBM Watson or Decisio Health might have access to EHR data, they have to go through data encryption processes and de-identifying that patient data, which is a large process to actually integrate, whereas our virtual pooling technology does not necessitate any of that. So where have we been and where are we going? As I mentioned, our original algorithm was established in June 2023, which is when we became incorporated. Since then, we've applied for grant funding, which is hopefully on the way. We've been in constant communication with them. We've received letters of support from Weill Cornell, Boston College, Dartmouth, Mayo Clinic, among others. We have our first paying customer, Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, who we're currently in contract with. We joined UCSF Innovation Ventures and formed a really important partnership with Data Unite and UCSB for the virtual pooling technology, which is patented. And coming from now to January 2025, we hope to increase our pharma contracts by 50% and complete the MVP validation for 50 diseases. That brings me to January 2025, when we hope to begin our fundraising. We're really looking for funding to be able to expand additional rare and genetic diseases from the current 50 we're working on, expand to different health systems, and of course, there's a cost associated with infrastructure for EHR contracts, and then eventually expanding outside of rare and genetic disease for our platform to be used for any disease worldwide. And we'll have more details come early 2025. And lastly, I'll just end on our team. So Kat Schmally is our founder and CEO, who's co-creator of the diagnostic algorithm with Vivek. Abhi is our CSO, a UCSF postdoc. Jacob is our CTO with tons of experience at Meta and Microsoft and other tech companies. I'm Sarah Graham, the PM and CEO focused on the business side. And Tribnab Gupta is our virtual pooling scientist from Data Unite and UCSB, among our advisory board with over 10 amazing advisors. That brings me to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to any questions.